Welcome to Ed's Not Dead. I'm Robbie Dodd. I'm joined by my co-hosts, Mr. C.H. Siddons. Casey just got off the road from Scranton, Pennsylvania.
Scranton Scrapper, hello. Good to be back.
Good to be back. Great to see you. And of course, Mr. Peter Crable. Hey, Mr. Krabs.
Good afternoon. Happy President's Day.
It's awesome to see you. Ed's Not Dead is brought to you by Ed's Not Dead Media, a full-service educational media company focusing on leadership, instruction, and of course 21st century school reform, which we're going to talk about in the show today. You can always find us at Ed's Not Dead PC and check out the website. If Mr. Crable did your credit card get declined and our website went down? Is that what happened?
Yeah, we can go with that story.
Okay.
Bad credit, tried to pay. I don't know. Casey told me like a week ago, and I have not been back to investigate why it's not working.
All right. Well, from the time our fans hear this show, give us a few days and then log into edsnotdead.com and hopefully Mr. Krabs will have paid the management.
Paid the light bills.
The light bills, yes. Fellas, how are you? It's been, just another couple months.
It's only been 6 weeks this time. Not bad.
Right?
Seems to be
6
our
months.
season 7 modus operandi. If that's indeed the season that we're in, I actually don't know.
When we were in our prime, what were we pumping? How much content were we pumping?
Every 2 weeks, man. Maybe 3 weeks.
I think I need to take responsibility for scheduling our days from now on because you guys can't handle it.
So you're not good at that.
I've been amazed since Mr. Crable became a principal. Casey, have you noticed that his text response time has just slowed to a crawl?
It's starting to cross the Robbie Dodd text response times.
I gave Robbie such a hard time for so many years.
You did.
This is a little bit of karma coming back.
I
was a very polite text. I was like, oh yeah, who are these people that you can't take 10 seconds to reply to a text?
But now, like,
your pals. Oh, that's cool.
The bar is so low. Like Robbie's texting me like on that text thread with me and you, with all three of us. He's texting a lot, and it's like, oh man, it's like
he's carrying the burden of the conversation.
I kind of feel like I've transitioned into being like a granddad, like a grandfather, whereas I was the busy dad a few years ago, but now Crable's got the 3 children and the principalship, and he's very stressed, right? Aren't you stressed?
It's just that the second that I come home and I have 3 children that are now like old and don't just like sit around with babysitters all day, they have like activities and stuff.
Yeah.
It's constant stuff happening.
Soccer, swimming, everything.
All of the above. Yeah.
Our weekends totally shot. Casey, your weekends are okay. You do a lot of traveling to go skiing and going to see your parents and stuff.
Yeah, we're keeping it pretty low key.
Yeah.
Trying.
Yeah, that's the way to do it, I think.
It's really like, it's like when you're trying to stop the clutter in the house, it's all about keeping it out of the door. The problem is my wife keeps signing Frida up for many activities. All the ones that she says she wants to sign up for, I say no, but then she signs up for anyway. Mostly because I don't want to do anything.
That's good. Frida needs to be busy.
She does. She's a busy person.
She's a bright little girl. All right. Well, we on the show today have a great show. We're going to make it quick. It's going to be an abbreviated show. No Peter Crable musical interludes today. We're going to hop right into an interesting article that caught our eye. The trouble with school is too much math. I do believe once upon a time on Ed's Not Dead, Mr. Siddons claimed that he could teach calculus. Isn't that right? Maybe that was season 1, Mr. Krabs?
I'm pretty sure.
Very early.
I'm pretty sure I made that.
Enjoy that.
It's an evergreen comment.
I was looking at the show notes, and kudos to Casey because he's the only person that keeps up the show notes anymore. But I believe that we started Ed's Not Dead in 2015.
I think it was 2016 or 17.
Okay, so that's
because Betsy DeVos was in power at that time.
Okay, so it's been 8 years, but only 7 seasons. I'm confused.
Well, that's why we don't really need to go by seasons. So just go by
Just go by.
Maybe for this article, if math was more important to you, then you would understand how
I
that
would
works.
understand it.
Guess.
All right.
If you
All right.
understood quadratic formulas.
What did you just call it? Did you? I'm not sure you pronounced that right. Did you?
A quadratic formula.
All right. Well, we're going to get into the importance of being able to determine the height of a flagpole by measuring its shadow and the angle of the sun. But before we do that, Mr. Siddons, it is show feedback time.
We got some great feedback, and I wanted to read it from our friend of the pod, David. He reached out to me, and he gave me some great comments, mostly just saying good things about Robbie, which Robbie appreciated a lot. So David shared they loved the new episode. What a vibrant and engaging listen, right? And then he talked about Robbie's infectious enthusiasm. What do you think? What do you think about that?
I'm loving this. Keep going.
This is a cousin, I believe, of the Dodd family.
And witty banter. And then I got a comment that was I have calm analysis, which no one would ever say that I have calm analysis. But
maybe
I appreciate it.
Maybe we got us mixed up or something.
Maybe that's what it was.
That's probably
that's probably what it was. And then diverse topics that go beyond education, from sleep science to chocolate history. I don't even know what that's from. Maybe he's making that up. Did we ever talk about chocolate history?
Sounds like something pointless we would talk about, but I don't remember.
It was our AI episode, so I actually replied to it. I was like, this text kind of sounds like you put it into Chat GPT trying to give us feedback, and he thought it was pretty funny. Anyway, he said they break down complex subjects into easy to understand bites, humor and pop culture references, and that we leave each episode feeling motivated to learn more and explore further. So that's awesome. Thank you, David.
Was this via like text or email, or was this on a like iTunes, type review site?
This was on a text message I got.
Nice. Well,
yes.
David, go ahead and put that on iTunes.
Oh yeah, David, can you give us a 5-star review and put it on iTunes?
Or 4, look, hey.
Oh yeah, listen, hey.
Not too much pressure here.
Yeah, I mean anything above 3, we're here for it.
Thanks to David, especially because he favored me. But that's great feedback. We love the feedback. So
and we'll read it all on air, good or bad.
Yeah,
that's right. Even the bad.
Two things. Did we ever do the episode that we promised we were going to do on the science of reading? We still haven't gotten to it.
We did not. We did.
Okay.
That's because that requires pre-planning, I think, is the big issue.
But we have to get to that because Casey was on this conspiracy theory about reading instruction during the formative years of my career, and I wanted to debunk that podcast he was listening to. What was it called again?
You didn't even listen to it.
I know, but I'm still going to listen when I have time.
Well, you had 6 weeks. What have you been doing? You said between then and now you were going to listen to it. I'm sure. I know.
I saw some Christmas lights hanging up in the room he's in right now. I think that
I know
a lot of his time.
I know Crable listened to it
3 times actually. Yeah,
I know you did.
So before we segue into math, this is actually a good segue. It goes back to our AI episode. So, Mr. Crable, you're a principal.
Yes.
A really bright quantitative learner who can code gets caught for plagiarizing a paper in social studies. All right.
Okay. Okay. Yeah.
So when you're talking to him and you're investigating the issue and he says to you, Mr. Crable, I wrote the code that wrote the paper.
Oh, nice. Respect.
So
I basically wrote it.
So what do you do?
Wow.
I know. That's the moral dilemma, isn't it?
Oh, that is a good one.
It's a good one. It's a good one. And
I'd give him credit for it.
It's going to happen.
I need you to write an apology letter to the teacher and just let it go.
I'm going to take 10% off your grade arbitrarily and accept it 3 days late.
I'm not sure the social studies and English teachers of the world are going to accept that.
I don't think so.
No, but
I don't think so. Yeah.
So that's what we're headed for, I think, with the AI revolution. All right, so let's get into this piece, fellas. We all like this. So once again, the title is "The Trouble with Schools is Too Much Math." It's by Travis Mayer. It was from February 6, 2024, again in the Washington Post. Um, so the point of this is just what the title says, and it shows this picture of these kids against a blackboard writing all different kinds of equations that, oh, there's volume equals length times width times height. You know
I
that
see
one,
that
right?
one.
Right,
Yeah.
Mr. Siddons?
So good. It's one of my favorite
So
formulas.
So Travis says, I know only two people who can readily recite the quadratic formula. My wife is one. She's always been a whiz at school, but as a choir teacher, she has absolutely no use for the equation. The other person is my brother, who works with electron beam technology as a mechanical engineer. He's in the minority of people who actually use advanced math daily. For most of us, the formula was one of many alphabet soup combinations crammed into our heads in high school long enough to pass a math test. Only 22% of the nation's workers use any math more advanced than anybody? Fractions.
I was about to say
At,
whatever comes before algebra.
and they typically occupy technical or skilled positions. That means more than 3/4 of the population spends painful years in schools futzing with numbers, futzing,
I love that word.
when they could be learning something more useful. So Travis goes on to say that applied logic essentially is the answer. I know, Mr. Krabs, you're going to like this. You're a very logical person. This branch of philosophy grows from the same mental tree as algebra and geometry, but lacks the distracting foliage of numbers and formulas. Call it the art of thinking clearly. He goes on to say that given the era of fake news that we live in and the era of disinformation and misinformation, that applied logic, teaching kids to think and be able to deduce and induce and solve problems without actual numbers would be much better time spent than the scope and sequence of math courses that are typically required by state boards of education and local school systems. So, what are your thoughts on too much math in school, Mr. Krabs? You've had long-standing issues with math, so let's
I
go.
have. Yeah, I think my guess is that for most part, Casey and I are going to be in agreement on this. And I in fact had this conversation with a former coworker of mine like 7 years ago, and he was the math content specialist. And we kind of went back and forth, the same old argument of why it's important or why it's not important. Use it, don't use it. And his kind of point was like, couldn't you make that argument for anything? And I was like, yeah. I mean, I think a lot of what we learn in school is arbitrary and somewhat useless. And so he was kind of like, so basically, what you're advocating for is school is camp, where kids just select kind of like activities that they're interested in. And to some extent, I think that's accurate. Um, I do. I mean, look, as I've said to you guys for years, I mean, the advanced math that we have kids take is, I mean, what they say, 22% use advanced math. So we're putting kids in classrooms for 4, 5, 6 years that 80% of them are never going to use moving forward. I think fundamentally that bears all of us asking whether it's worth it or not.
Mm-hmm.
And for the author, I do applaud his thinking of like, well, the counter argument of why you need math is logic, because math is logic for step A, step B, formula this, formula that, kind of like putting order to the world. And I think respect that, but applied logic I think is a little bit of an equally arbitrary replacement for math. When it could be anything else or nothing else. And kids could just choose a little bit more of what they're interested in. So if we could figure out a way to remove compulsory math beyond a certain age group, I would be all for it. I think one of the drawbacks would be kind of losing kids that would otherwise be that at some point might fall in love with math and become engineers and become kind of like the the future nerds of society that we need and are important. And that, if we didn't kind of push them to do it, some number would not do it. But overall, I'm fully in support of, not putting kids in classrooms for, half a decade doing stuff that they're never going to use.
When I talk about a subject that not only just math, but math is in particular something that people get frustrated with very quickly because the applicability is hard to bring to a student's level. I can only speak to middle school, but I think this speaks to a few issues that schools and even school systems can't really fight against. And there's a lot of arbitrary state requirements that I think politicians and policymakers need to think about, which is like, how many hours and courses do you need to take in middle and high school? Hours and seat requirements for a certain amount for different subjects. I think those are the kind of conversations that we're not having because everybody's just pencil pushing. Like we put kids in seats in math classes because we have to. Whereas the policymakers that make these policies and regulations from the state level don't have to answer to it. I don't know if that is something that, as principals, that seems beyond my scope. But
well, speaking of policy, it's reasonable that Travis goes on to say it's reasonable to suggest that public schools all provide a standardized core curriculum. But what makes up a fundamental education? America has not thought through this question in a national conversation since the 1983 release of A Nation at Risk. Who was the president at that time, Mr. Siddons?
Reagan.
The product of a presidential commission on education, this report warned of declining achievement in the country's schools and diagnosed, quote, the urgent need for improvement. Among its recommendations were a minimum of 3 years of math for all high school graduates. So I guess my next question would be, if we say there's not the need for higher level mathematics courses, which would most likely happen in high school, right? Where do we stop it? Where do we cut it? What should be compulsory, and then anything after that is an elective?
I mean, in college, you generally have to take one math class. It's like a little bit of a potpourri that you get to choose.
But let's be honest, the college selection of math, if you're not a math person, also seems equally kind of like a joke.
Totally. It's one as opposed to three.
That's true. That's less. You're right.
Yeah, it's less. It's not that it's a better, like, oh, it's one, so it's really good, but it's just less of it. And I think, and I was kind of curious. I was going to bring this up if you didn't, because I consider you the resident Nation at Risk expert. But I think it definitely bears asking, like, what is necessary for, and what makes up a public education today. And I don't think we're anywhere close to even asking ourselves that question, let alone answering it. And
well, everybody that I've talked to when I've talked about this article and this topic, every single person talks about the fact that, well, what about financial literacy? Like, knowing how to pay your bills. And I know that everybody boils that down to like very low rigor skills, but every single person that I've brought this up to talks about budgeting and financial literacy. And it's something that is foisted upon schools in some like arbitrary kind of surface level way in middle school. But it's something that's so useful for someone's entire lifetime.
Let me ask you a question, Casey. Your brother, he's an engineer?
Yes, both of them.
Okay. Did they both do extensive math?
Yes, more so my older brother.
Did you ask him about this?
I did, actually. I'm waiting to hear back from him.
Yeah. And I'm curious because the three of us, did not take extensive math courses and obviously ended up in, more of a liberal arts track.
One of his quotes was, he took as high level math as he could at our small school in Pennsylvania, a small public school. And his quote was something like, going to an entry level physics course in college as a freshman was like drinking from a fire hose.
Yeah.
So, he was able to keep up with it, but to say he was unprepared, I think, is an understatement.
I want to go back to something you said, though, and Crable teed it up, which is, so financial, I have nothing against financial literacy or financial math, but to Crable's question about what is an American education or American? I mean, what should kids be learning? I'm a little surprised you'd say that because Casey, because that's just teaching kids life skills. Is that what we're supposed to be doing in schools? Or are we supposed to be teaching them kind of higher order kinds of things, how to think, um, actual stuff, content? So we're just going to teach them how to start a 403b and check stocks and pay a mortgage.
Yeah, no, it's a good point. Yeah, I mean, it is lower level at a far glance. It is a lower level thinking skill.
And shouldn't it be we talk all the time on this pod about how the requirements of schools to prepare kids, I see that as a parental responsibility, but that's just me being very old school.
Sorry,
I mean,
say that again. What is
I see financial literacy as a parental responsibility.
Got it. Okay.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
I didn't get that. I didn't get it from my parents as much as I maybe would have liked to, but to some degree they were not as maybe not as prepared to talk about it with us in any case.
So maybe I'm just going to throw this out there.
You could make that argument for sexual wellness too, I guess, in health class, right?
Yeah, that's true. Good point. Good point. We don't assume that the parents are going to teach the birds and the bees.
Right.
We've assumed responsibility for that, amongst a lot of other things.
Right.
I guess more the parental piece really was not my point. It's just, is that our job to teach kids life skills? I guess it is part of our job, but I'm a little less anti-math than you guys. Maybe it's because I have math envy. I've always been incredibly envious of really strong quantitative thinkers. And I do think that challenging math makes you smarter, regardless of whether you're going to use it or not.
Sure.
I think it builds your brain.
I don't disagree with that. I think what we see, and you've seen it too, the amount of straight up like disengagement with math by children is jarring. And I don't know. I mean, the motivation factor starts with adults in the room, but I don't know if it's a chicken or egg thing, because like there was a time when we worked together, we had students who were not doing well in math and they were in like double period math. So the kids that hated math the most were given more math. So it's like, and I think a great decision was to remove that, because it was like, it can be, I've been there myself, where it's so demoralizing to be in a classroom where you don't like the subject and you don't feel perpetually successful at it, that it just becomes a lifelong bad taste in your mouth.
Agreed.
You know what I mean?
100% agree. I would, to your point about the way it's taught. I mean, Mr. Crable has his description of how math is taught that he's described since I've known him. How's math taught, Mr. Crable?
Show a problem. I'm going to show you how to do it, and then go ahead and practice it on your own. Now practice it with a partner. Then we're going to talk about it. We'll do it on the board and do it together.
And then you'll do 50 of them at night.
Yeah. Now do the odd ones.
Only the odd ones.
That's right.
So funny.
I mean, algebra and geometry, I mean, they're taken in both middle school and high school. For the better part of 2 decades, the push was to get everybody in algebra. You guys are middle school educators. You know much more about middle school than I remember now. I think it seems school systems have moved away a little bit from that, pushing that algebra earlier. I might argue that algebra and geometry are necessary. But then the other thing that causes me concern, think about the institutional arrangements that are like so calcified around math. Then what do you do about the PSAT? What do you do about the SAT? I mean, it's American public education hangs its hat on all of these kinds of arrangements, and you would really to your point, Casey, Carnegie units for credits for graduation, all of that would have to be disassembled.
Yeah.
And we talk about blowing it up. Maybe math is a big part of blowing it up.
Well, that's what I was going to say is that, if you were to rethink math requirements and blah blah blah, like it would require a wholesale rethinking of what public education is. In one model, and I don't know whether it's better or worse, but I know in other countries high school is more like a college model where kids, you have like a morning or an afternoon session, and so they can, they take X amount of classes in the morning and then can either do like the schoolwork or work or an activity or whatever in the afternoon. But it's less like school centered and school based. It's more like a center where you go and then leave, and then you're left a little bit more on your own. But the thing that I don't know if it's a drawback, but the thing about that is that, schools serve as babysitters for society in terms of keeping kids engaged during those time hours so parents can work. And I don't say babysitters, derogatorily, but it is the fact that because there's no other civil society apparatus that takes the place of schools. Schools are learning institutions, and schools are also de facto babysitters that keep kids during the day so that parents can work.
Yeah.
So I think that's just another factor that were we to go to a different model where kids, I don't know what middle school would look like, but just in high school, and kids were to go and take classes somewhere, you wouldn't have to take math because it wouldn't really matter. You could offer whatever class at whatever time, then kids sign up for it. But then you're definitely left with a void of what do kids do for the other 4 hours of the day if they're not in school.
High interest electives.
Yeah, camp.
And high interest electives are really only found in high school, where in middle school, for example, most schools have very few, like obviously there's like world languages and music electives and maybe that one or two art classes. But beyond that, there are no electives that, in my mind, that's what gets kids really connected and engaged in schools are the electives, because they're just different and fun and maybe not as high stakes. But I think we need more of that in middle school, where the need to be engaged as a learner and a community of learners is so much more profound at an early age than we expect it to be maybe previously.
And I do find it, and I know we're wrapping up here, but I do find it interesting that a consequential federal study has not been done in 41 years to determine the state of public education.
Yeah.
I wonder what it would take for a president or for a secretary of education or for somebody to do something very similar, because I do think it would yield very different results. To be honest, I don't know what results it would yield. And I know part of that has been, kind of like the stepping back of the federal government from education generally and kind of leaving it to each state to be a little bit more autonomous. But what do you think the chances of anybody in the next decade doing something similar to really take a look at education holistically?
Needs to be done. And as much as I would like to bash A Nation at Risk in the period that it came out, and it's always associated with the Reagan administration, it wasn't. I don't even think really it was commissioned by the Reagan administration. I think it was commissioned prior to him assuming office.
Okay.
So it often gets kind of lumped in with, Reagan's move to the right in the 80s. But and there were lots that I mean, it was the classic, we're falling behind economically because our public schools are failing. And if you go back to that period of time, C.H. Siddons, you weren't even born, and Crable, you were an infant.
That's a one.
Is that 1983? Were you born in 83, PC?
Yeah.
Oh, look at that. He was born the year Nation at Risk came out.
I was born in 81.
Oh, 81. Okay. All right. You confused me there. I mean, when you look back to that time, it was, I mean, what was happening economically? Inflation was incredibly high. The big three car brands were dying. The Japanese were taking over the automobile market. I mean, it was this scary time of that we were falling behind, and somehow a nation at risk said, "Oh, well, it's been school's fault over the last 20 years." So, I mean, I wouldn't, but I do think it is time. Probably, I didn't even think of that, Mr. Krabs. That what would a comprehensive assessment of American public education tell us? All right. So the piece is, do you think I pronounced Travis's name right? Travis Meyer?
Yeah, when you said like Mir, I was like, pretty sure that's Meyer.
Okay.
But
I did not say Mir. Did I say Mir?
Roll the tape.
you did not, but it was something that was definitely not Meyer.
Okay. Well, there's three vowels right in a row in that name. Are there not? Yeah. Any name with three vowels in the middle is tough. Right, Pearl? Yeah, Pearl, you agree with me. Mr. Crable's beautiful daughter just came onto the Zoom screen.
The Zoom.
All right. So check out the article in the Post. The trouble with schools is too much math. And stay tuned, Mr. Siddons. Eventually, we are going to hit that science of reading topic.
So I do have a quiz for y'all. You want it?
Yeah.
Are you ready for it?
So ready.
Can you handle it?
Just correct me if I'm wrong. Hasn't it been like 3 or 4 straight quizzes where I've just dominated?
I mean,
yeah, I've not done well recently.
Okay.
You also got the easier questions, but other than that.
Okay.
That's true. That's true. So since Robbie's the reigning champ, Robbie gets the first 3 questions. Are you ready?
I'm ready.
Just so everybody knows, I have no idea what I'm about to ask, and the concepts are so foreign to me that I may pronounce so many things wrong.
Did you put it in Chat GPT? Is that
basically, yeah. All right. Number 1, on a Cartesian system, the equation y equals ax to the second power plus bx plus c represents a blank. Is it A, a parabola, B, a curve, or C, a zigzag?
I'm going with B, a curve.
Incorrect. It is parabola. You should know that.
Really good guess, though. Good try.
Yeah, it was a good guess. Number 2, for the equation y equals 0, there can be a maximum of blank different roots. How many different roots? A, 1, B, 2, C, 3.
That would be A.
It's incorrect. It's actually 2. How could you get these wrong?
Yeah,
this is math.
It's up and down,
This is quadratic equadratic and I'm sad that you don't know this.
You know what? You're so lucky that this quiz is not directed at you.
I guess when he read that, I was like, infinite? And I was like, well, that was not a choice.
All wrong. All right. The next one is super easy. You have a choice of imaginary or real. All right. Both the roots are same if b to the second power equals 4.a.c. I don't know what any of this means. If b to the second power is less than 4ac, then the roots are blank.
6.
Blank 9.
No, it's either imaginary or real.
Oh, that would be A, imaginary.
This is obvious.
Okay, that's correct. And if b to the second 4ac, then the roots are
definitely real.
They are real.
Very good. Nice job, RD. You got that one correct.
Robbie,
very
impressive.
Good. 1 for 3. Yeah. Nice job.
Mathematical mind over there.
Whiz. All right, Crable, you ready?
Definitely. 3 out of 3. Let's go.
Number 1, Pythagorean theorem can only be used in what kind of triangle? A, right.
Oh, come on.
Equilateral.
This is an easy one.
Regular.
After careful thought, I'm going to go with a right triangle.
That is correct.
Let's go.
Right triangle. Number 2.
That's the hypotenuse. That's the hypotenuse squared.
You got it.
I would have had that.
Number 2. Legs are always the sides adjacent to the 90-degree angle. Does it matter which leg is A or B? Yes or no?
It does not matter.
That is correct.
Let's go.
Jackamundo. And number 3, is the hypotenuse always the longest leg? Yes or no?
Oh, man.
Crable, I'm going to send you a lifeline.
Yes.
The answer is no.
No, come on.
So that is a 2 for 3.
I need someone to explain that
for
to
the
me.
win. Yeah. FTW for the win.
I thought the hypotenuse.
Yeah, it's got to be.
It seems
it's
like it
C
should be
squared.
longer. Yeah.
I mean, that could all be true. I just Googled quiz about fun facts about quadratic equations. Note there are none.
Google
I
produced 0 results.
There are 0 results in 0.20 seconds.
I don't really remember quadratics from when I took algebra. I remember quadratic equations in algebra 2, Mr. Krabs. But I definitely remember the Pythagorean theorem from geometry. I mean, that was something I remember kind of actually understanding.
Yeah, it was pretty
understand that,
straightfaward because here's a
Yes.
shape and here's the formula to figure
Correct.
out. It's like, oh,
Yeah.
that
Right.
makes
Yeah, algebra is
it's tough, man.
it is
challenging.
It is it's very, very
It's a
difficult.
lot of words.
A lot of words, a lot of letters, really tough to kind of figure out all the Y's and the X's.
A lot of legs.
A lot of legs. All right, Mr. Siddons, that was an amazing quiz. I'm sure all of our math friends out there are probably just appalled by our lack of
send us bad feedback.
Send us some get us some troll feedback. That's what I want.
Ed's Not Dead is brought to you by Ed's Not Dead Media, a full-service educational media company focusing on leadership instruction and 21st century school reform. As always, check us out on Twitter at Ed's Not Dead PC, and of course, the website, edsnotdead.com. All right, fellas. What do you got going on here in the weeks to come? Oh, what's happening the first week of March?
Whoa, something cool. A force of nature going west.
Going to Texas.
Who's going to Texas?
That would be me and
some cool people.
Me and Mr. Siddons are going to Texas.
Oh yeah.
Are you
going too?
Are you coming?
I'm going to be there.
All right.
Let's go.
Representing the podcast at South by Southwest.
All right. So we're going to the South by Southwest educational conference. It's going to be awesome. It was incredibly hard to sign up for. So Mr. Siddons had to help me figure out the website today. But it's going to be exciting, guys. We're going to be there for 4 days, right?
Awesome.
Yeah, definitely looking forward to it. Started looking. You'll be disappointed to know that there's a literal room where you can go into where what is happening? The recording of podcasts.
Oh man.
I was like, ooh, because I didn't know. I didn't even know it was a thing.
Is it too late?
I would imagine it's too late. But I encourage Casey to reach out because you're the only one that seems to be able to
I'll do
follow through
I'll
of the
email.
three of us. Yeah.
I'll look it up.
But there's literally a whole podcast section. I was like, oh god.
PC.
Yeah.
Would we have to bring like major hardware if we were going to do it? How would that work?
No, if they said yes, we could throw something together very quickly and easily, and make it sound nice.
I'll check it out. I'll check it out.
Gotta get the okay from them.
Fellas, that would be pretty cool to record from South by Southwest.
Yeah, I'd be into it.
All right. Or we could just forget that and go back to the hot tub at the Airbnb.
That also works.
I'm all about that too.
We were going to talk to some people, but instead I'm just in the hot tubs. So.
Casey, Mr. Krabs hooked us up with a sweet pad.
Very exciting.
Yeah, we're right near downtown. It's got a nice landscaped yard with a hot tub. It's got the third bedroom is a VW bus parked in the driveway.
Very excited.
That would be Robert's bedroom.
Yeah, Chez Roberge over there.
Yeah.
So yeah, it should be a good time.
It's going to be awesome, fellas. Can't wait. And we're gonna actually learn something.
I'm excited for the conference.
Yeah, it's gonna be really cool. So we're leaving on a Tuesday, coming back on a Friday, and maybe we will record Ed's Not Dead while we're there.
Yeah,
that's awesome.
I look forward to Casey's ADD mixing with my antsiness in the middle of a session. Like 3 minutes in, we're like, we gotta get out of here.
Let's go.
So are the three
we have to
of
go
us,
learn something?
Are the three of us going to go to every session together? That sounds, yeah, really.
I don't know.
We're gonna we have to sign up for a lot of sessions.
I might need some alone time.
I'm gonna go talk to these people over here.
I need to do some networking, fellas. So I'll be doing that. Okay.
Get us some money. Just be like, hey, do you guys want to give me money?
Maybe we can get some more sponsors.
There you go.
Yeah. I mean, we need some
Crable-
support. We need some
Crable,
support
you need to
show.
order some swag that we can promote.
I think I have stickers still.
Let's do it.
Yeah.
Get 1,000 more
On
right.
it.
on it.
All right, fellas, it's great to see you. Thanks as always to our listeners for tuning into the show one last time. Ed's Not Dead is always brought to you by Ed's Not Dead Media. And boys, we'll get a couple more shows recorded here in the second semester, right?
Absolutely.
I think 2 to 3 is a reasonable goal.
And we'll be done.
I think that's appropriate.
And we'll be done by June. I'll be completing my 30th year in public education. Mr. Krabs, what will this be for you?
19.
19, Mr. Siddons?
16.
Wow, look at us.
Jeez.
You guys are getting up there.
That's
right.
Vets, the 3 of us.
Oh, Mr. Krabs, you're getting a 20-year pin next year there.
Let's go.
Crable, you got the golden handcuffs on. You don't have any options now. You have to go all the way through.
I don't think I'm quite there yet. It's getting close. It'd be hard to
walk away
but,
now.
Yeah, I know. But somebody wants to give me a pile of money. I'm not sure for what, but hey, it could happen.
All right. Thanks as always for listening to the show. For Casey and Peter, we will talk to you soon. Take care.